Good morning. I'm Dr. Tom Rivera. I'm the retired Associate Dean of Undergraduate Studies here at Cal State San Bernardino. We're embarked on a new project entitled The Oral History of South Colton. And today is July the 3rd, and we're at the Fowle Library here at Cal State San Bernardino on the 4th floor. And our guest this morning is Ms. Genevieve Perez. And Genevieve has been a lifelong resident of Colton. And Genevieve, thank you so much for being with us this morning. Thoroughly appreciate you taking time off from your busy vacation work study to be with us this morning.
That's my pleasure.
And especially the day before July the 4th. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
The other thing is that we picked you up earlier than we were supposed to, and you were ready for us. Prior to our interview, we talked about your Nina, and what was your Nina's name?
Luz Duran?
Luz Duran. Luz Duran was an avid collector of articles and materials, activities, experiences of Colton. And I see that you have her scrapbook here. It's the old scrapbook that she collected. And tell us about this scrapbook. Do you know when she got started with the scrapbook? Well, I'm sorry, but first of all, Luz was.
Luz was my mom's oldest sister.
Okay.
And also more like a mother, since my mom's mother passed away when my mom was 10. And she kind of raised them a little bit. But Luz only went to school to 3rd grade.
And she was the oldest of the family?
There was another one, Simon.
Uh-huh.
He was the oldest, and then Luz. And she just was very particular in keeping family records, and her friends and everybody that was involved with her. She and her husband were godparents to over 40-some children. They didn't have any children of their own, and their godchildren were very, very special.
What was his name?
Vicente.
Vicente.
Vicente Duran.
And last name?
Duran.
Duran.
Uh-huh.
Luz and Vicente Duran.
Right.
And where did they live?
They lived on 7th Street, right behind Dell's.
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
where the gas station was.
Right,
Yes.
okay. There was a house there, and then there was another house next to them. And Myrtle, all I remember was Auntie Myrtle. She was our Auntie Myrtle. She lived there. And, but those were the houses, and catty corner was Navarro's.
Right, because it was almost in the corner of O Street and 7th Street, in that area.
Right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
right, yeah. And then, were they both born in Colton, Luz and your,
I think my Nina was born in Mexico,
okay.
but my Nina was born at 531 O Street
Oh, in Colton
in
also?
Colton.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
And where did her parents come from?
They came from, I had it written down. Oh, I have it on my phone. Anyway, they came from Mexico, the same place. And I want to say it's Leon,
Guanajuato.
that's it.
Leon, Guanajuato.
Yes. both
And do you
of them.
remember what year they came to Colton?
No.
Okay. But early, because Luz was
Early.
born in, again?
1917.
Uh-huh.
My grandparents were born in 1913 in Colton, and my grandma had been married before, but her husband and her firstborn had died. So she was here before then,
Uh-huh.
when my grandpa came over.
Uh-huh. And your grandpa coming from Mexico to Colton, why did he come to Colton?
I don't know.
Where did he work?
My grandpa was the first barber, Mexican barber in Colton,
I'll be darned.
and his shop was
What was his
on,
name?
Atanasio.
Artenacio,
Antanasio.
Antenacio
Chavez.
Chavez. Antenacio Chavez. Where was his barber shop?
His barber shop was on J Street, where the tracks were, but it was on the south side of the tracks. They hadn't built the overpass yet.
Right, right,
And so it was right there. We don't have J Street anymore.
right, that, right.
But that's where his shop was. And then later he moved to O Street on a corner to where Nacho Cabrera had his shop.
The corner of 7th and O Street?
7th and O.
7th and O
Mhm.
Street. And did he have any family?
My grandma and my grandpa had 8 children. 3 boys, Simon, Ezequiel, Andres, and then 5 girls, Luz, Jessie, Petra, Jenny, and Teresa.
It was a large family.
It was a large
It was a
family.
large family.
Mhm.
And did your grandma work or just
No.
homemaker?
Homemaker.
Now, getting back to one of their daughters, Luz. Luz compiled the scrapbook that we have in front of us.
Mm.
Can you tell us a little bit about the scrapbook?
You can tell that the scrapbook was in the 40s because of there's a lot of soldiers that were in here. Their burials, their funerals, and then some that came back. And my favorite one was the Medal of Honor. And I guess that's because my dad was in the service and he made us very proud of going and being part of the service and doing this for our country.
Mm-hmm.
But this Medal of Honor winner was Isamel Villegas, and he was from Casablanca. But he was our Medal of Honor winner, and
And then your aunt Luz so collected the articles about him.
all the articles.
And there's a picture there.
Uh-huh.
What is the picture?
This is his wife and his son,
Ismael's wife
and his son,
and his
Junior.
son. Okay.
And then this was the funeral. And this is more pictures of the funeral.
So she collected many articles of our
Our service.
of our service boys from Colton that served in the armed services. Yeah.
And this picture here is from the Casablanca Elementary School, and the kids all stood out there to salute him when he went by.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is more pictures of the funeral.
And do you remember what year, or does it say what year the funeral was?
You know what, I'm not sure. This one says November 6th, 1945.
1945. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I also noticed that she collected a lot of articles and memories of members of the family.
Right.
Uh-huh. Like there's a letter from somebody that went to St. Louis.
My tia Petra, and
Oh.
this was after my grandma died. My grandfather changed religions, and he went from being Catholic to being a Jehovah's Witness. And they went to a revival in Kansas that was for the Jehovah's Witnesses. And the tia that had written that letter, she stayed Jehovah, and everybody else stayed in the Catholic religion. But that was a big outing for them. They had never been anywhere.
They haven't been out of Colton.
No.
And they drove all the way
They
to
drove,
all the way to Kansas City,
all
was
the
it?
way to Kansas.
Uh-huh. And they had a kind of a revival type of meeting there?
Right,
Uh-huh.
So my mom would have been about 11, and my tia Petra that wrote the letter, she would have been about 14.
Because the letter is written 1941.
41?
41, and that means that, your Aunt Luce started this collection a long time ago.
Mhm,
A long
mhm.
time. What other articles do we have there that caught your interest?
This is my tío, Ezequiel,
Uh-huh.
And he stayed in the house on 531 O Street where all of them were born. They were all born in that house. And he was in Japan. And this is a picture of him. And then they had a little article saying that he had come home. And then he sent Western Union notes to my Nina. And this one was how they could send, this was called V-mail. And this was a Christmas card that he sent from Japan.
And
that's
it
how they
reads,
said,
"Greetings, it's nice to pause a moment when this season draws near to wish you a Merry Christmas and a very glad New Year." And this is signed by,
Ezequiel.
okay, Ezequiel.
Mhm.
All right.
But
Well, he was in the
everybody-
service, huh?
Everybody knew him as Ezekiel or Kelly.
Uh-huh. Did he go to Colton High School?
I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
I know that he worked and retired from the cement plant,
The Colton Cement
the
Plant?
Colton cement plant, yes.
Okay.
But I don't know what his schooling was, because I know that Luce and my tia Jessie, I think they only went up to 3rd grade. And then Petra, Jenny, my mom, and Teresa, they were graduates of Colton High School,
Mhm.
yes.
What other story drew your interest on this collection?
Some of these,
Well, you know, you have a wonderful treasure here. Now, how did you happen to wind up with this?
my Nina died in 1963. And my Nino wanted to make sure that all of us got something. And so he gave this to my mom. And there was another book and a lot of history. There was so much history. And so when I got old enough, my mom saw that I was very interested in photography, and I kept little scrapbooks myself and stuff. And so she says, you know what, this needs to go to you, because you've taken on this role.
Uh-huh.
And so I was very honored to be able to take this, but it's so old and tattered. As soon as you touch it, it starts falling apart, and you can see all these little pieces.
Uh-huh.
But they had in the paper where my tia, Ezequiel's wife, Mrs. Chavez, honored with a dinner party. And they had a party for her, and people of Colton were all invited. But the one that I always
When
remember...
was this? What year? Do you know what year this
48.
was? Okay.
And this one was in July of 48, and it was the Van Akens.
Oh, at their backyard.
Right.
Uh-huh.
The Van Akens used to throw the best parties. And being a little kid, I mean, for sure for Easter we would be there, and they would have a humongous Easter egg hunt and food galore and music, and I mean, everybody was there.
And this
know,
was on Congress Street,
on Congress.
just behind the baseball diamond.
Right,
Uh-huh.
right. And their property was so big, you know, so everybody fit.
Uh-huh.
And they had parking for everybody. I really enjoyed those days.
Uh-huh.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, that, I like that. And there was a little article on her where she had given a farewell party for 2 of her friends. And they were Betty Ashi and Betty Chang. And they were going back to Hawaii. And the people that were there were Antonio Arroyo, Luz Duran, Jenny Chavez, Dolores Hernandez, Saul Shafrey, Betty Ashi, Betty Chang, and Mr. and Mrs. Van Aken.
I'll be damned. You know, Genevieve, this brings me This, what you read, just brings to me a lot of memories because I knew Antonia Arroyo,
Mhm.
and she was married to Louis Arroyo, and they lived there on K Street.
Mhm.
On K Street, next to the church house in the Catholic Church. Well, this brings back a lot of memories, like I mentioned, Antonia Arroyo and her husband Louis Arroyo. Antonia is very involved in not only the church, but also the Garfield Elementary School, because her sons went to Garfield. Arnold and the oldest one, I can't remember the oldest one's name, but she was very involved in community affairs. And the other person that you mentioned was Jenny Chavez. Jenny Chavez lived almost next door to the Venecans, and they lived behind the baseball field at the Veterans Park, and they were my mom's and dad compadres.
Oh, okay.
So they were my mom and dad's compadres, and they baptized my youngest brother, Danny, and they were also co-workers in construction, especially the building roads, freeways, paving roads and freeways. So they were both in construction, so very, very good friends of ours. Who else did you mention there in that
Well,
article?
Dolores Hernandez, she cooked the dinner for mine and Fernando's wedding.
Uh-huh.
She made our dinner, but these
Let's
women,
see, Dolores made the dinner for your wedding?
Lola,
Lola?
Lola Hernandez.
I know Lola, she's
Yes.
Louis'
Louis'
mom.
Uh-huh.
And they're also long life residents of Colton.
Right.
And her husband, Pete Pedro, worked for the cement plant.
Right.
And he was also a very good baseball player, and he played for the cement company's softball team. And the softball field was next to the plant there in Colton.
Mm-hmm.
And but a good ball player, just an excellent ball player. Who else did you have there?
Well, some of these women, and not all of them are on here, but they had a group, these women, and they were called Las Teenagers. And it was Luz Duran, Jessie Velasquez, which is my Nina's sister,
Oh, and Jesse Velasquez, her husband,
Tommy,
Tom Velasquez, they owned the 76 gas station
right,
in Colton just before, at the entry of Colton.
right at the entry of Colton.
Right in front of the
Wilson
bridge,
School.
the Wilson, or
Yeah.
the Garfield School Bridge.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
And Mary Morataya,
Mary Murataya, a few feet from the bridge, had a hardware store and
Right.
furniture store. What was her husband's name? Sarko?
the-
Sarko Murataya. Sarko.
Sarko.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
and then
Who else was part of that group?
Nella Rodriguez.
And who was Nela Rodriguez?
That was Manuela, and they owned the store, Esperanzas,
Oh, they were the ones that started La Esperanza Market on West O Street.
on West O Street.
Okay.
There was, and I think Mary Vanaken, and there were a few other women that were on
Was
there.
Sarah Vanaken?
Sarah Vanaken.
Sarah Vanaken.
Uh-huh.
Mary was the daughter.
Mary, okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, I forget Mary, my brother was in her wedding.
Uh-huh.
They had a group and they did a lot of things,
Uh-huh.
you know, and a lot of things within the community. I would say a lot of it would be something like a little Mexican women's version of the Kiwanis or the women's club.
Yes,
It
okay.
was something like that. But
Okay.
it was just, you know, these women. And one of the things that I
How
really...
about Mariana? Was she involved with this? Mariana Hernandez?
Oh, yes, yes.
And Mariana took over the Esperanza Market and her
Right.
husband.
Mariana was a sister to Manuela. They were sisters,
Okay.
and she was the youngest one.
And Manuela was married to Victor Rodriguez, who started the store.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And then they sold the store to Esteban and Mariana.
Okay.
So that's where they got that.
That's
from.
where the.
Yeah.
Tell me about what are the person was part of that group?
I can't remember. I just remember them taking me to see, I think it was the Sound of Music at the Chinese theater in LA.
Oh, Chinese Brooklyn Theater in Los
Right,
Angeles.
we went to go see that.
Uh-huh.
I was so excited,
Uh-huh.
because all these women they were a lot older than I was. I was maybe 10,
Uh-huh.
But I got to go with them on the bus, and that was a lot of fun going with them.
Yeah, well, my mom was part of that group. She and Mariana were very good friends.
Oh, okay.
And
okay.
you mentioned the kind of an auxiliary, or kind of like they would be compared to the women's club in
Mhm.
North Colton, but they would be a support group for the community.
Right.
If there was a funeral, they would provide the reception, the food, or if there was something was going on in the community, they would also provide services.
Right.
And volunteer for some of those activities.
Well, on some of in here, but before I change the page, I was real excited with this picture here, because this is a picture of President Truman when he came through Colton.
Oh, that was what, 46, 47,
48.
48?
48,
Uh-huh.
April of 48. And I thought, wow, that's pretty neat.
Uh-huh.
Not only that he was here, but the train itself, if you can see the train,
Uh-huh.
the old train.
And that was at the depot, the Colton Depot?
The Colton Depot.
Which we don't have anymore.
No, unfortunately.
And there's some pictures of the Immaculate Conception.
This is when Immaculate Conception was opened, after they finished it. And Father Keene was the priest. And it was consecrated in 1948 in January. And my Nina has a little article here where they ransacked the home of the priest. So, but he was the priest until he passed away here in Colton.
And I understand that Father Strailing, or Bishop Strailing, was also a Colton person.
Right.
Okay.
And this is Bishop Buddy that dedicated the church.
Uh-huh.
Bishop Buddy.
And, well, you even have a picture of Bobby Velasquez,
Bobby Velasquez
who was the son of Jesse and Tommy
and Tommy,
Velasquez.
another one of my cousins.
Well, Bobby's your cousin?
Right? Yeah. Because his mom is my mom's sister.
His mom is my mom's sister. Well,
Your
everybody in
sisters.
Colton is related.
You got it. You got it. And I want to thank Bobby for his role in our family. Because of him, so many of our younger generation went to college and graduated. They followed his footsteps and became college graduates, which was awesome.
Well, the other thing that we could add to his a foothill to his honor is that he was a graduate of Cal State, where we're at now, Cal State
Right.
San Bernardino, in the early 70s.
Mm-hmm.
He graduated from here. Yeah. And he had a band.
The Latin lads, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't wait to get old enough to go to the crescendo, so I could hear Bobby play in his element,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But by the time I got to go to the crescendo and he was playing Santana, he was playing Chicago, and not playing like the Perez Prado music and stuff like that. That's what I wanted to hear, But it was good.
Uh-huh. Let's see, what other pictures do we have here?
These are weddings,
Uh-huh.
and I'm not real sure who they are,
Yeah.
but she's got their announcements and their pictures.
Uh-huh.
And then these are postcards, 1947. And she would save little things from the weddings, like this must have been on the table for this wedding. And So she has those.
Is this a picture of, in the background of the San Salvador?
This is the old
The old San
at
Salvador?
the old San Salvador church. And I was honored to be in the choir. When Father Valencia passed away, the parishioners were not allowed in the church. The people that were in the church were all priests, nuns, bishops, cardinals, everybody in the clergy
At his funeral?
at his funeral
In
that were
1966?
in the church.
Uh-huh.
But Father Wagner, who had a choir in the Immaculate Church, and I was part of his choir, we sang for that Mass. And they had to reconstruct the choir loft to hold us because it was so old. And so we were there and we saw everything that was happening for that. And then we traveled with them to, I think it was San Diego where they buried him. And that was a very memorable day. But I felt sad for the people that had gone to that church forever and ever.
And
were
couldn't
not-
get in.
And were not allowed to go in.
I'll be darned.
Mhm.
Let's see, what else do we have here?
So-
She was quite a collector. She was
See.
quite a collector.
This is the mortician Nob Snyder,
Uh-huh,
the original owner.
yes.
This was his burial and his when he died, and this was a flower from his flower arrangements.
In the headline says that he was in Colton since 1905.
Mm-hmm.
1905, yeah. What else do we have here?
Okay.
Let's see.
Let's see. We have
Wilson graduate.
given a Legion Award. So this must be the American Legion, and it was Ramon Hernandez and Maggie Marquez and Pascual Oliva, commander of the Fidel Hernandez Legion Post, and they made the presentation to these kids.
Uh-huh.
What year?
49. And this is a letter from the Post expressing thanks for making the food and serving those that attended from the surrounding cities for this American Legion. So this was another one of those things that those ladies did, was they did
And this is addressed to who?
by Nina Luz Duran.
Okay.
Could you repeat the names of the award winners?
Yes. 2 members of the Woodrow Wilson Junior High School 8th grade graduating class were presented honor awards of the American Legion at the commencement exercise June 8th at the Colton School. Pictured during the ceremony are left to right, Ramon Hernandez, Maggie Marquez, the students, and Pascual Oliva was the commander of the Fidel Hernandez Legion Post. And the superintendent was Paul J. Rogers. So they later named the school after Paul J. Rogers. And they were given the, Glenn Palmer was the principal.
Glenn who?
Palmer.
Mm.
So,
Thank you.
uh-huh.
What else do we have here?
And these are just little, you've been my inspiration. And this is from my mom and my Aunt Betty. You have made my faith secure, for my knowledge of your kindness and your love is very sure. So with all my heart, dear mother, I sincerely hope and pray that your life is very happy, most of all on Mother's Day.
Very good. And this is one of the letters in 1941
Right.
that was sent from Kansas,
From Kansas.
from Kansas to your mom,
To my Nina.
to your
To
Nina.
Luz. Uh-huh.
And, you know, kind of telling them of the experience that they were having
Right.
at the I forgot the name of the church.
The
Jehovah Witness.
Jehovah Witness Church
Right. okay.
revival. Uh-huh.
And these pictures that follow.
This is a picture of Sacramento
Uh-huh.
in 1941. sure it looks a lot different now.
No, it hasn't changed.
No?
Hasn't changed. Let's see, what else do we have here? What
This
about
is
the
the-
pictures that follow? Mira, those.
Okay, these are Lucy Morales and Drusella.
Now, how do they fit,
Lopez.
fit into Colton?
Just, probably just friends.
Yeah.
But these are, she took a lot of the pictures from the funerals. And I also did that. Would take pictures of everybody that I could of the funerals. Now this here is Theodore Galvan, and he's also related to Sally Vasquez.
Mm-hmm.
This was, I think, an uncle, and he was thrown from a horse and was killed
And that was back in 48?
in 48.
In
Uh-huh.
1948? And now, who is this pretty girl over here?
Now, this is my tia Terry. And this is her Wilson School 8th grade graduation picture.
And what year was that?
This is 1945-46,
Uh-huh.
the 8th grade Woodrow Wilson.
Oh, and here are the list of the
And
graduates.
here's all the graduates. Uh-huh.
I'll be darned.
Let's see if we can. Tommy Castorena,
I'll be darned. What year is that? 48?
46,
46,
45,
Tommy
46.
Castorena. He's my neighbor.
Marcos Calderia, Gilbert Alvarez, Vera Alva, Manuel Alanis, Albert Alanis,
They both lived over by the church.
Reynaldo Abril,
Ray Abril.
Ray
yeah.
Abril.
Ray Abril's Jr.
I'm sure you would know a lot of these
Oh,
people.
of course I do. Of course I do. Well, I'm gonna have to scan this from you, so let's see if we can move on to
Okay.
the others.
This is in front of the house that my grandparents owned, and
What-
where all my tios and tias were born.
And the address is?
This is the 531 West O Street,
Okay.
and this is one of my cousins, his daughter that lived there. And this is a letter from Blossom E. George, from the vice principal of Colton High School. And she wrote a letter to congratulate my tío Ezequiel Chavez for my Aunt Terry.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So she wrote a letter of congratulations for them.
What year was that, Genevieve?
I would say it would have been 45. No,
Okay.
it would have been after 45, maybe 47,
48, yeah,
48.
yeah.
And then this was a little article on a benefit dinner at San Salvador Church. And it was, let's see, what was it for? For the building fund of the new San Salvador Catholic Church. Now here are some of the people that we were talking about that were the las teenagers.
Okay.
The group sponsored the affair was headed by Mrs. Frank Araiza,
Raisa? Uh-huh.
J. Aguilar, P. Colunga, J. Rice, L. Arroyo, G. Morataya, G. Perez, A. Castorena, Ramos, Mendoza, Vincent Duran, L. Sandana, that must have been Louis,
Yes.
D. Guerrero, I'm sure he was part of the Guerrero brothers, Binini,
Yeah, Pinini.
Ruben and
Trini.
Trini, Van Aken, Zacharias, De La Rosa, Serrano, J. Lopez, P. Chavez,
Copy that.
Mary Delgado, and Natalie Salazar. So these, they were the starting this dinner, this benefit for the New Catholic Church. But there's no date on
There's no
this.
date, and I see the dates here, 1947 and 1948. So, yeah.
And then this was a report card from my Nina Luce. And, well, she was in 4th grade and gone up to, was promoted to 5th grade. And this one was assigned to 4th grade. And this was her award from, in writing, in handwriting, penmanship, and perfect attendance. So correct me on that, I thought she had only gone to 3rd grade, but she went to 4th grade.
Uh-huh.
And then these were...
It's a good thing she kept records.
That's right, you know. I cheated her a year. And these were birthday cards that she had gotten from her friends. And
The
the
footprints.
footprints of one of my cousins,
Uh-huh.
Freddie Chavez, still lives in Colton.
Freddie Chavez.
He married Sylvia Calderia. Freddie, graduate of Colton High School, 1965.
Uh-huh.
And he was in band, and his kids went to Colton.
Uh-huh. And
This is a new picture. This is me and my granddaughter. This is when I turned 55, and she had no choice but to be a Dodger fan.
and this.
And then this is just a picture, but I don't know who it is. JC. I don't know who JC is.
Uh-huh.
Maybe, I don't know.
Well, Genevieve, you have a wonderful treasure here.
I like
You
it.
know, would you in the future let us borrow it for
That
our
would be
oral history project?
Yes, yes.
And then possibly Frank Acosta can scan the information, and we would have it available here at the university for people that would like to learn about some of the private, not only activities and incidents that your Nina had, but also learn about who the people that she participated with in Colton were during that time. So if we can borrow it, we'd
would be
appreciate it very much. Now, what do you plan to do with this scrapbook?
You know, I was talking to Lily about that because nobody really wants to take it. They say, nah, I don't want it, you know. Maybe one brother would take it because he also would do everything that I would do. He was my little shadow. And so taking pictures and getting information, I think he would enjoy doing this.
Oh, cool.
But,
Good. So that would be in safe hands then?
I think so. But I really wanted to give it to Jennifer,
Mhm.
my daughter Jennifer,
Uh-huh.
because she's very involved in her dad's family's family reunions and writing historical
Oh,
things
great.
that is going on.
Right.
But right now, she's not too interested in it,
Mhm.
you know, so I'll give it a couple of years.
Yeah,
and
give it a few more years.
See what
Give it a few
happens.
more years.
Mhm.
You know, you mentioned to me that you were at one time part of the library board, or part of a
Historical, the Colton Historical Committee.
And then you were participating with them, and you got an issue came up. And can you tell what the issue was?
The issue was that they wanted to put bronze plaques at historical places in Colton. But all the bronze plaques that they were talking about were north of the tracks, the freeway. Everything was north of the freeway. And I said, that's not right though. You know, I said, oh, we have a lot of things that happen in south of that track. And I said, that should be noted, you know, and then, well, you know, we're talking about Colton. Well, so am I. You know, South Colton, you guys gave us that name. I go, it's all Colton. It's all Colton. And there was a lot of things that happened. And I said, and one of the things I know that my tios and especially the men that were just thought was the ultimate was the Calderia plunge.
Oh, okay.
And they said because they learned because of this man.
Juan Caldera.
Juan Caldera.
Juan
Oh, it
Caldera.
was Caldera. Okay.
Yes, Juan Caldera.
That he was a father figure in so many ways to these boys that were, you know, little hoodlums. They were just running wild, you know, and he taught them to swim, and he taught them to box, and he taught them to do just a lot of things. And my dad said that complex was way ahead of its time.
Tell us about the complex. What complex are we talking about? The Caldera complex?
Yes.
And where was that located? On South Fifth Street? South Fifth Street?
Right.
Okay. And what was in the complex? You had swimming pool?
They had swimming, they had a
Baseball
boxing,
field?
baseball field. They
Yeah.
had a lot of things to offer the boys to stay out of trouble,
Mhm.
you know. And I know my dad just couldn't say enough about this thing. He says, you know, this kept me from getting into a gang or, you know, going astray. And right after that, he enlisted in the army.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what a lot of these guys did. They, you know, they enlisted in the army. But that was a big ordeal for these kids to go to. It was like the plunge in North Colton, you know, only this was in South Colton.
Yeah, because we couldn't participate in North Colton recreational activities.
The plunge in Colton, the only time that the kids from South Colton could go was on Friday. And that was because that's when they emptied the pool out. That's when they were going to clean it. So they were allowed to go on that at that time.
But they were lucky that Caldera built the complex on South Fifth Street in
Right.
Colton.
Right.
Okay.
Mhm.
And the issue was then on the Colton committee?
Was that they didn't have anything that they could, that was concrete as to what they could put a plaque at. And, you know, I brought up the Patio Supremo, which was
Patio Supremo?
Patio Supremo.
On
thank
O
you,
Street,
on O Street.
Uh-huh.
And that had, for many, many, many years, was a big function for South Colton.
Fiestas Patrias.
And the parades.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, there was just, I can't recall off the top of my head, but at that time I had them all written down as to, you know, these places need plaques also.
Uh-huh.
You know, so when they said that they didn't think that would fly, I just said, well, here's my papers. I don't want to be a part of it, you know. And I lived, except for 2 years of my life, all my life in North Colton. But my family and my roots and all the history was in South Colton.
Uh-huh.
You know, so it was still part of my life.
Uh-huh.
And I thought it should be part of it, you know.
And you were not part of it as far as that committee was
No,
concerned?
I didn't want to be part of it.
Uh-huh. You mentioned the Esperanza Market.
Mhm.
There were about 10 little markets in South Colton. You know, as you know, Colton was self-sufficient because everybody knew that there was de facto segregation. So we all stayed in South Colton, and we did all our shopping in South Colton. We did all our recreation in South Colton. We did all our party in South Colton. We had our tortillerias, bakeries, grocery stores, gas stations, church, schools in South Colton. Now, how did the Esperanza Market get started?
I believe it was Manuel, no, I keep saying Manuel, Victor and Manuela Rodriguez started that store.
What year do you remember? Do you know?
No, I wouldn't know.
Early 1900s?
I would say,
Yes.
because then after they got pretty old, then the sister, Mariana Hernandez, and her husband took it over, and they kept that store. But one of the things that was really good about these little stores, Navarro's, Martinez, and Cervantes, was they had a little book with your name on it, and you could buy stuff and pay as you went. You know, you didn't have to pay cash for everything that you bought at that.
So you had good credit with all these different
You had credit
stores.
with all these stores. And I overheard not too long ago, Stater Brothers on Valley still has one lady from South Colton that has her book still, where she can still get stuff on credit. You know, but she's the last. That's the end. But that's what would happen, you know. They would have.
Do you know who this lady is?
No.
Okay.
No. I wish I did.
Uh-huh.
But that was one of the pros on having the little stores, was that they would, you know, give you a credit
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
for, you know, you could buy stuff on credit.
And Mariana and
Esteban.
Esteban had the store for a long time.
Very long time, and then it burned. And in my other scrapbook, I found the article of when it burned, and then they moved to Navarro's store,
Oh.
which was, I think, a lot smaller,
Yes,
but they moved to that store,
who was just a block down down the street.
a block east
Yeah, east, yes,
of that.
on the corner of O and 7th.
Right,
Uh-huh.
right. And then across the street, I think was a Gaitan store.
I don't
Um,
remember that one.
It was, I think it was either Rudolfo or Albert that had a store there too.
Uh-huh.
They had two stores. And now I'm not real sure, in Toby's Market, where La Palomas was in Colton.
Where the Veterans Park is.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
okay. Then there was another store over there.
La Tiendita.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
So, I guess we had Las Palomas and Riverside had Casablanca and,
And then we had Rodriguez Market also on the corner of M Street and 9th Street, near the railroad tracks, just east of Cervantes Market.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Now Cervantes, I grew up with his family. His daughters went to Catholic school, and we were good friends.
There was Cookie and Nadine.
No, they were Irene and Mary.
Okay, the younger one.
Right, the younger ones. And then the son was...
Ray
no,
Jr.
No, Mr. Cervantes was...
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I was talking about Rodriguez.
Rodriguez.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Now, which Rodriguez's are you talking about?
The one that owned the market. Nadine, Cookie, Ray.
Now, were they the ones that went to Rancho and Citrus?
No,
Not Rodriguez Market too?
no.
No.
They
okay.
stayed there. They
They
closed
stayed
there.
there, okay,
Yeah.
okay. No,
Yeah, you're talking about Charles Cervantes.
Right, Charlie.
Charles and Charlie.
Mhm.
Yeah, he also went to church, to school where you went.
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
So anyway, my curiosity about the Esperanza Market was that a friend, Antonia Hernandez
Mhm.
Kelly, was adopted by the family. Do you
Right.
know about that adoption?
Tony, Antonieta, Tony's mother gave Tony to Victor and Manuela because she had two more babies. And I think one was like a year ahead and a year behind. And Tony, to me, poor Tony was the one that was chosen out to be raised by another family.
Okay.
And
But it was kind of the custom, wasn't it?
it was, in a
Mexican
way.
custom, yeah.
And the family embraced her
Uh-huh.
very well, you know. She was a big part of their family and their traditions and everything. Excuse me.
Now
She
you,
always corrected you. She was good in correcting you.
Mandona.
Mandona, ay, ay, ay. You could not say, yeah, always yes sir, yes ma'am. And because I lived across the street from Vic and Carmen and down the street from Manuela and Tony, I was always there. So I got corrected just as much as everybody else did, you know, and my kids, they thank her for that. You know, they say, you know, if it wasn't for Aunt Tony, you know, we would have been slobs, you know, and we're not.
And
we
she worked for the
speak
school
correctly.
district for many years.
Right, and my daughter took her job
I'll be done.
many years later.
Uh-huh.
You know, she has that position now. But you know, it was very good. It
Mhm.
was very good.
Mhm. No, she's a kind of a good legend for South Colton and things that she did and the hard work that she produced and also the being a good role model for many people from South Colton.
And clarify the position that she occupied.
She was the secretary for the superintendent in Colton.
For how many years?
Oh man,
I know it was several superintendents.
I would say over 30.
30 years.
Over 30 years. And she started out as a secretary at Colton High School. So
Yeah,
she worked her way up.
she's a good legend.
Hmm.
And I'm delighted that Jennifer took over her position, your
Right.
daughter Jennifer.
Yes.
Now, tell me about you. I understand that you were quite a softball player.
I love softball. I love baseball. I wanted to be the first lady Dodger. That was my goal. But I played for 10 years in the City League and then about another 5 years with the co-ed team.
Well, you were born in South Colton
I
on
was-
Maple Street.
Mhm.
On Maple Street. When you were 2 years old, you moved to North
We
Colton,
moved to North Colton.
and then you went to Immaculate Conception.
Hmm.
And what age did you start playing softball?
7.
Well, you were a youngster.
I was 7 years old.
Uh-huh. And what drew you to be a softball player?
Probably my older brother. He was an avid Dodger fan. And I kid you not, but we played wiffle ball every single day. Every day we played wiffle ball. And because I was a little bit younger than the rest of them, I always had the worst position, you know, when we were playing football or baseball, whatever it was. You know, I was the catcher. Or you have to catch 3 flies to get up. Well, the catcher never caught 3 flies back there, you know. So I would never get up. But then they would put me outfield, and then I'd have to go chase the balls. But you know what? Just to be with them, I was happy. And in football, we played a lot of football, and I was always the center. And as soon as I hiked the ball, they would just shove my face into the ground, and I was out of the play. But we just all loved baseball, and my mom and my dad. So with baseball being a big part of our life, I mean, my mom would make hot dogs, and we would sit in front of the radio and listen to the Dodger game. And then when the Dodgers came on TV, we only saw the Giant game and the Astros, I think. And my mom would push the TV up to the window, and we would sit outside and watch the game outside with the radio so that we could hear Vince Scully, you know. And I mean, we loved it. We still do. We still do. And
But you were pretty good.
I was, you know, I won a all-around athlete for the city of Colton in the age 10 group.
Uh-huh.
And this was all the grammar schools in Colton sent their best athletes. And James Hayes,
Now,
he
who
was,
was James Hayes?
James Hayes was a teacher.
At Colton High School?
Well, I met James in my summer school in 3rd grade. He was my summer school teacher in 3rd grade. And this is funny, but what attracted me to him was I had never seen such a hairy man. This man had so much hair. He looked like he had an Angora sweater on. And in 3rd grade, I remember going up to him and asking him if I could touch the hair on his arm. And he started laughing. And he goes, well, yeah, go ahead, And I was just like amazed, And we became good friends when I found out that his only son, Stephen, and I shared the same birthday. Well, he also taught CCD at Immaculate, and then he taught at the junior high school, and then he went to the high school, and he did the police explorers and the fire, I don't know what the firemen were called, but a lot of his students went to become firemen and policemen, and he was also the baseball coach in one of our city leagues. And he knew like every kid. He probably knew every kid.
He's a great coach.
Great coach, just a great mentor. And then he ran for council and he won. And I can't say enough nice things about that man.
So with tremendous influence on your life,
Right.
in terms of your softball and your interest in Colton activities.
Right. He was, when they started the Colton Recreation, I think they had McKinley School, Lincoln, Grant, and probably Wilson. I don't think Paul J. Rogers was up yet. I know the high school had it also. And they had different people that ran this, and we did crafts, and we learned how to play caroms, and we did all kinds of athletic things as far as like the high jump, the broad jump, basketball throw, softball, baseball throw, football throw, all these things. And the one that would win, we got ribbons, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, and 4th, and I think maybe even 5th.
So it was a well-organized
Very
recreational
much
program.
so, very much so. And I still have all my ribbons, but they kind of got wrinkled. And one day I thought I'd iron it, and it shriveled it up.
You
So
better take your
I didn't
digital
do
pictures
any
of
more.
it.
I didn't do any more ironing on them, but that was
Well,
fun.
my next question was going to ask you, who were your heroes? And you mentioned 2 of them, Tony Kelly, and you also mentioned Jim Hayes. Were there any other heroes in your life when you were growing up?
Actually, Tony wasn't until later, but it was Alice Molina. Alice Molina was she went to school with my Aunt Teddy, and she was very involved at that time with the GAA, which was like your
Girls Athletic Association,
right,
okay.
Right. And her daughters went to Catholic school with me. And she had our sports program at our Catholic school. And in 4th grade, I was on the senior volleyball, basketball, softball team. And she says, you're our first 4th grader, that's on this team. And I was so proud because I love sports. And when I graduated from 8th grade, I was the first one to receive a sports trophy for my sports, being involved in all the sports for those years. And I was very proud of that, And then she was also my baseball coach, my first team. And I couldn't have been happier because the name of our team were the Dodgettes. We weren't the Dodgers, but we were the Dodgettes. And so she was my coach, and I couldn't have been luckier than to have her, you know, push me along all this way and make me strive to be a better athlete and a better person.
Uh-huh.
Because she was very involved in the Immaculate Conception Church, and so in seeing that, you wanted to be like that, you know.
Okay.
And so, and she was very involved all the way into my adulthood, you know. And then tables turned, and then she was helping me with recreation, with kids, and just, you know, she was a real big
Hero for you.
influence.
Yeah.
Yes, she
A
was.
big hero for you.
Mhm.
You know, if we look back, you know, growing up in Colton, how have things changed? How has life changed in Colton during the time that you know, were growing up in Colton, and even now, looking at Colton now? How have things changed? Or have they changed?
Well, they have changed in a lot of ways. And that is, first of all, I was very proud of being known as the hub city. And that was because of our trains that crossed. And then somewhere in the 90s, they took that away without putting it to a vote to the citizens. And I was really sad over that, because that was what we were known for. We were known for the hub city, you know, and everything was with the trains, and, you know, the things about growing up was one of my boyfriends, his last name was Nunez, and my dad says, ¿De cuál Nunez? ¿De la calle O or de la calle whatever? And I go, Dad, you don't know them. You don't know his family. You know, I'm telling my dad that. You don't know everything, you know, you don't know him. And then my mom says, what's his dad's name? And I go, Tom. Ay, pues es el hijo de Tommy Núñez. Y trabaja con tu daddy. You know, they work together, right? And I'm going, oh my gosh, you know. And everybody was, pues, de la calle N o la calle M. Porque también teníamos Garcias ahí. You know, so they knew everybody by their streets, you know, who was who. And my brother, he lives in Georgia, and a lot of times he'll say, so do you still see like people? And I go, you know, Dave, the one thing that is so good about Colton is that I can come to a stop sign and I'll see somebody and I haven't seen them for a while, and they'll go, you know, okay, and we'll go have coffee and talk. You know, just like that right now, we're gonna go have coffee and talk, you know. Or seeing the children or the grandchildren or the great-grandchildren, and you know who their families were, you know, and that's really exciting, because you don't have that hardly anymore. In my street, when my dad bought his house in 55, there's still 4 original owners, and they were all from South Colton, you know, and they all bought their homes with their GI benefit, their GI Bill. And one of them was in Normandy, one of them was in Germany, my dad was in Japan, and I don't know where Socorro Reyes was.
Socorro, his parents were from N Street, but I don't know where he served. I know his brother Phil served in the Navy.
Okay.
But Socorro was Army, but I don't know where.
Right. I don't know where he was stationed.
And then Socorro worked for the Colton Water Department for many years.
Right. He retired from Colton. And the other one, Bob Matos, he worked at the cement plant and retired from the cement plant. And his family was from Colton. The other one was Salvador Vasquez, and his family was also from Colton, and they lived on 7th Street, 7th and O, up on a little, like a little ridge.
Uh-huh.
And so, you know, these people were all from Colton, and they all knew each other.
Mhm.
You know, they all knew each other, and here, now they're neighbors. And the kids, we all grew up with each other also. Bob Martis, his son Robert, is my compadre. Sal Vasquez, his daughter, is my comadre. And going to Catholic school now, Catholic school has a big influence on you. Going to Catholic school in second grade, I made my first communion. And Susan was in second grade, and she hadn't made hers.
Now,
So-
who is Susan?
Susan is Sal's daughter.
Oh, was Sal Vasquez the band leader?
No,
Okay.
no. But I know that Sal. Sal worked for Santa Fe, he worked for Kaiser, and but I would give Susan her catechism lessons at home, and nobody knew that that's what we were doing. And so one day we went to church, and I said, okay, you guys are going to make your first communion, and we're in second grade. And I said, and this is how you go up, and this is what you do, and okay, so we did that. So I'm your Nina. You have to call me Nina now because, you know, I brought you to First Communion. Well, we walked home. She told her mom, I made my first communion today. Hijo. You know, you weren't supposed to do that yet. You were done. Anyway, so they put him into catechism. So they got her into catechism. And then she formally made her first communion. I go, that's your second communion. I said, you already made your first communion. And don't you forget it, you know. And so, you know, that was a big part of what we did. And we would always be, we would be like the Supremes or the Beatles, and we would put shows on in the garage, and the kids from the neighborhood would have to pay a nickel to come and see us play. And Sally, Sal's wife, would make peanut butter cookies. So my brother's friends would go, not because they wanted to see us, but because those peanut butter cookies were to die for. They were so good. And so they would sit there and, you know, clap for us and everything. And we had these little plastic guitars, and oh God, we were, you know, we loved doing that, you know. And, you know, all of us, as other families moved in, we still stayed very good friends with these people. And one of them were the Sendejas, and their son became a firefighter and just retired, a fireman.
What was his name?
Ray Sendejas.
Okay.
And he was from the class of '74. And again, you know, James Hayes pushed him towards that. Another family was the Glovac family, and he had nothing but daughters. But his first son-in-law also, he pushed into being a police officer. And his name was George Gomez, and his family was from Colton. And, but just, we still have the second generation living in those homes, and we're still good friends, you know?
An extended family.
Extended families. We, you know, we all went to Colton High School, and we're still connected. We're still very connected.
Well, you know, Genevieve, people don't believe that I still get together with my kindergarten friends 69 years ago for breakfast. That people do not believe that we get together as kindergarten pals after 69 years of being in kindergarten. So that's the type, I know what you're talking about when you're describing the relationship with people that you grew up with.
Well, Susan's been my friend since we were 2.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, we're comadres, and her daughters and my daughters were really good friends, and her youngest son and my youngest son are very good friends. And so, you know, it's continued, and we still are very much in tune with each other. And it's funny because we talk about a lot of our childhood. You know, a lot of times we couldn't, if one of us was in trouble, we couldn't go outside. And so we would go to, like myself, I would go to the bathroom window, and our call, we would go, "Ow!" And they would hear it, and they would come to the bathroom window, and they'd say, "What happened? What's up?" You know? And that's how we would communicate, or if they, did it, then I knew I had to go to the fence and go see what was up, And it's funny because sometimes when we see each other, we go, "Ow," So, I mean, we just we had a lot of fun. I see that now we are so protective of our children. Walking to school, I used to walk to school and I was a kindergartner,
And you were about a mile away from Immaculate.
Well, for kindergarten, it was Grant School.
Uh-huh.
But I remember I would run. I thought I was Jim Thorpe. I would run because I never wanted to get caught when they still used to use that, the siren
Mhm.
for, that they would use.
Air raid drills.
Okay, the air raid drills.
Okay.
And I remember in kindergarten, one time I was right there and it went off. Oh my God, I think I flew to my school. I got so scared. So I would run to school every day so that I wouldn't get caught with that. But, the kids have no idea what that is. They don't know.
So it's a
And
different life.
It is a different life. We don't let our kids walk. They can't ride their bikes like we used to. They would be all over town
Mhm.
riding our bikes,
You need another drink?
No, I'm okay.
Okay.
I'm fine.
Uh-huh.
So, and I see it even more so now with the kids. The kids can be 2 blocks away from school and they don't walk. They don't walk to school, they get a ride.
Mhm. Mhm.
So,
We've been here a little over an hour. Is there anything that I forgot or that you would like to tell us, that I completely forgot to mention during our interview? Or things that came to mind while we were having the interview?
in high school, there was a contest. And what I did was I took a picture of every Hispanic worker, teacher at the high school. And I took a picture of myself in the middle of this, and then all these people that had some kind of influence in my life in high school. And I had a little string that would come from each one of them and where they came from. And we won. My project won. I won $25.
Uh-huh.
But everybody where they originated from, some from Colton, Arizona, Mexico, a lot of different places. And not only that, but then they got to say, "Oh, you were from there," and they themselves got closer because now they had something in common, And I was very, very proud of that project.
That's a wonderful project.
So yeah, that was.
You were a senior in high school?
No, I was a junior in high school when I did that, but I was very involved with art. I took every art class you could imagine in high school, and Mr. LaPlante was my art teacher, and he says, "How come you didn't do that one for us?" I don't know. I did it for my English class, And he was real upset. He goes, "God, we could have won, And I go, "But I didn't like his.
Yeah.
I didn't like his project."
But getting back to your project, which was you in the middle and all these Hispanic folks around you. Very good.
I like that.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed